Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the InterSim Esports Network for a Sunday night. We are back here with the 13th and final round of the Ray White Rural Gander Australasian SUPERCAR eSeries. Tonight's location is the virtual Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the Indy 400. Everyone's been looking forward to this one all season long, 160 laps around the famous Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I'm Aidan Schultz. Joining me in the booth, as always, is Paul Jackson. Good evening to you, Paul.
How we going, Aidan? It's Sunday night, the final round for the Australasian SUPERCAR eSeries. So good to be back here to bring this one to everyone.
Yeah, looking forward to a great call with you once again tonight, Paul, for, like I said, what is the 13th round and final round of the Australasian SUPERCAR eSeries, of course, brought to you by the team at Ray White Rural Gander, of course, Witcher Electrics and AP Esports on board for this one as well. You'll like that livery there, Paul, from Matty Simpson, the DGR Team Penske livery for him for the Indy 400 tonight. Really looking forward to this one. Raymond Yeager's up the top in practice at the moment with a 52.09, with Greg Spencer, his Pinnacle Esports teammate, with a 52.19, sitting in the second position currently. Justin Witcher is the leader of the championship going into this final round. Some would say that he has an unassailable lead coming into this one, but it is the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, as we see Stephen Williams in the 98 car there pancaking the wall out of one. We're going to see a lot of that tonight, possibly, Paul. The draft in this car is massive, especially down these long straights that Indianapolis Motor Speedway has. Also, that aero wash that these cars create with those massive rear wings, with 4 distinct corners tonight, Paul, as opposed to the 2 that generally blend in that you see on an oval track. So really looking forward to that one.
Definitely, and with these tyre stints that go on, you're going to have to look after those tyres, I think, Aidan.
Yeah, they will. If we go green, they'll probably be coming through pit lane, I'd suggest, on 4 occasions. The fuel drop is about 35 to 37 laps, but we'll cover that off a little bit later, or very shortly rather, when we go through the details of tonight's race. But we'll bring up the current championship points, ladies and gentlemen, as we head into the 13th and final round of the Australasian SUPERCAR eSeries, and get you up to date with where all these drivers sit coming into this round. So you can see Justin Witcher at the top there, 403 points. A pretty great lead there on Gary Wellman, sitting back there in second on 378 points, but it's not unassailable with how many drivers are in tonight. If Justin goes out early, it's definitely anyone's. Troy Davidson sits there in the third place, 369 points. Christopher Finlay, 356 points in fourth, and Cade Donnelly rounding out your top 5 currently with 344 points. Don't write off Andy Barber for a solid night in the office tonight. He's back there on 305 points. Probably not going to be able to get up into the championship placings at the end of this race, but he comes off a solid win this morning in the trucks at Talladega. So he'll be coming off a high coming into this round, Paul. So looking forward to seeing what he does tonight. But we might just head on and let everybody know who's tuning in here on the InterSim Esports Network, as we always do. If you're tuning in across our Facebook or YouTube platforms, be sure to comment on the stream. As always, tell us who your favourite driver is. Tell us who you're going for. Even your favourite liveries. There are a couple of different ones out there tonight, so keep an eye on that. Communicate with us through the broadcast. We like chatting with you. It's going to be a long night in the office, 160 laps around the Brickyard tonight, but looking forward to that as we're about to go into qualifying, Paul. But we'll quickly, while we go into qualifying, we'll bring up the details of tonight's race. So it's a bit of race notes for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. It is 160 laps, as I said. A little bit different tonight, 95% fuel drop. So long race, 95% fuel drop will still give them about 4 stops, I'd suggest. They do have 3 sets of tyres, including the ones they start on. No fast repairs, so keeping the car clean is going to be very important. 1 green-white checker if it's needed, of course. There's myself and Paul Jackson in the booth, as always, here on the InterSim Esports Network. The track is 2.5 miles in length, or 4.02 kilometres, whichever way you read it, where you come from, and the virtual time is 8:25 a.m. But we're into qualifying, Paul. It is a I believe, a 5-minute qualifying. It is a longer lap around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway of about the 50-second mark. So these guys will want to get out there early and throw down their lap times. Everyone's going to want to get pole for this one, Paul. It is the Indy 400. It is the benchmark or the big one that everyone looked forward to for the Australasian Supercar eSeries, and we can see that with how many drivers are in there tonight, Paul.
Yeah, I think I spotted there's about 35 guys in tonight, so one of the largest fields I think we've had this whole season. So, yeah, as you said, everyone wants to run this final round, and even though there's only a couple of guys there in contention for the championship, everyone wants to win that final round.
Yeah, they most definitely do. And we're going to see, I mentioned the liveries, Paul. We've got one on screen there. A lot of, well, not a lot, I can't say that, but I've seen a couple of liveries going around which are a little bit of a throwback to the actual V8 Supercars. That was an old Craig Lowndes livery, and there is a DJR Team Penske livery going around. But we have Adam Malone there in the number 4 Southern Stars Racing entry on screen at the moment, coming around doing his qualifying lap. A couple of guys have set down their benchmarks at the moment. Troy Davidson has set a hot lap straight out the gate, 52.6, but he's just been pipped by his teammate Cade Donnelly there with a 52.59. We've got another Southern Stars eSports car. No, sorry, that is Cade Donnelly on board. Aaron Dillon on screen at the moment. He had a good run a couple of weeks ago, so we will see how he goes. Raymond Yeager's just jumped to the top with a 52.29. Greg Spencer, not to be outdone there in second place with a 52.34. So the Pinnacle Esports were 1-2 in practice, and it looks like they are 1-2 at the moment again in qualifying, so they look really quick on one lap pace. Terry Marwood with a solid drive. He had a good round last round as well, 52.58. Currently, Cade Donnelly is in pit lane, so that's all he has at the moment. Cade Donnelly, the Sim Boys Racing 41 entry with a 52.59. So everyone's pretty much set their first lap. We're on board there with Damon May, I believe. No, Reese May. Reese May in his Mayhem car. We haven't seen Reese a lot in the last couple of weeks, I don't believe. I don't remember calling his name. So hopefully Reese has a nice drive tonight and has a nice solid finish. But Greg Spencer's just pipped his teammate with a 52.21 going straight to the top. So it's going to be provisionally Greg Spencer in the 29 Pinnacle Esports car starting off the pole position. Raymond Yeager, his teammate in the 23 entry, will be starting off second. So it doesn't look like anyone is going to be able to pip those times. A couple of people have had a little bit of an issue around the track at the moment, I believe, Paul. We've got some big names like Darren McKenzie only pulling a 53.04, about 0.8 of a second off the current provisional pole time. If we look down the field as well, it's good to see the 350 entry of Michael Skurlock in tonight. Very, very good driver. He's jumped into the 9th position currently with about 40 seconds left to go in qualifying. Adam Malone is currently the top of the Southern Stars Racing outfit in the 4 car. He's sitting there in 6th position at the moment as well. So Adam Malone coming off a solid drive today at Talladega in another race. Ended not so well for Adam, as sometimes super speedways can, but we will see how Adam Malone goes tonight. So Reese May at the moment still going around, as well as Dean Guilfoyle. Never know if I pronounce that correctly, Paul, so you might be able to pick me up on that if I am, but we'll see how these guys... Not likely, but we'll see how these guys go. That's the end of qualifying, Paul. 5 minutes are done, so that sets your grid for what the Indy 400, the Australasian Supercar eSeries Indy 400, and we'll bring up that grid for you and run through the entire grid as we're about to go green for 160 laps. So Greg Spencer will be off your pole position. On the outside of him will be Raymond Yeager. On the second row will be Terry Marwood and Cade Donnelly. Third row out of the 5th position, Troy Davidson and Adam Malone. Out of 7th will be Lachlan Capel, followed by Andy Barber with a nice solid qualifying. Michael Skurlock out of 9th, Christopher Finlay out of 10th. Pete Matson will start out of the 11th position in the Ray White Rural Gander entry, and Jared Daly will start out of 12th, Paul.
Aaron Dillon and Gary Wellman, two Simboys cars, rounding out the top 13 and 14 spots there. Steve Williams and Darren McKenzie in 15th and 16th. Dwayne Priest in 17th, Reese Main 18th, Matty Simpson 19th, and Scott Rank in our top 20. Sean Hart in 21, Todd Maxfield 22, Brett Campbell 23, and Nigel Padden in 24.
And we'll just roll over to the next page, ladies and gentlemen. When it comes up, out of 25th starting position will be Aaron Bryan, followed by Philip Howe in the 26th position. Out of 27th, Tom Pritchard, with Reese Belitho out of 28th. Ian Quass will start out of the 29th position, with Sean King bringing up the 30th position. John Quass, it's the Quass brothers there by the looks of it, in 31st position. Evan Horswell will start out of the 32nd. Justin Witchy, a championship leader, starting out of the 33rd position. Dean Goifoyle will start out at 24th, and Michael Shaw in the 07 Southern Stars Racing entry will round out your grid in 35th position, Paul. So it's a Pinnacle Esports front row here for what is the Indy 400, 160 laps around the Brickyard, the virtual Indianapolis Motor Speedway right here on the Indysim Esports Network. Thank you for everybody tuning in. We can see your comments. Thank you, Steve. Nice outfit, Aiden. Thanks for tuning into my stream too, mate. You probably got both going. Greg Spencer will be quick tonight. He was quick in Pracky apparently as well. Ryan Barber's joined in as per usual. Thank you, Ryan. Good luck to everybody. 35 drivers pretty good. It definitely is. Not sure that 35 will finish on the lead lap of this one, but we'll see how we go. So it'll be Greg Spencer in the 29 Pinnacle Esports car, bringing us to the green here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Raymond Yeager will be out of the second position. Kate Donnelly and Terry Marwood will be off that second row. Keep an eye out for them early to make some positions. Troy Davidson and Adam Malone. Third row, Andy Barber, Lachlan Capel. Fourth row, Christopher Finlay and Michael Skurlock will lock out that fifth and not final row, but fifth row and the 9th and 10th position for this one as they make their way down the back straight of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. They'll head through turn 3 and 4 shortly. They'll be strapping those virtual belts in. The heart will be racing. They will be getting excited for this one. So they'll go through 3 and 4 and get ready to start the Australasian SUPERCAR eSeries Indy 400. So, Paul, we're not going to pick, I don't think, anyone. We'll let everyone pick and give the commentator's curse in the stream chats. So tell us who you're going for, and you put the mockers on them tonight. It's a little bit too early for us to do it. 160 laps to go. So Greg Spencer brings us through the 4th turn and final turn here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. This will start on green flag for the first start. Then it will start on the leader for any restart that there may be. So the pace car will make its way into pit lane, this time down the main straight. So the field is in Greg Spencer's hands. We wait for the green flag, waiting for it to come up. It's quite a long run down the main straight for the green flag. Any time now, and we're green for the Indy 400, round 13 of the Australasian SUPERCAR eSeries here on the Indysim Esports Network. Greg Spencer with a good jump there. Looks like Terry Marwood looking very racy there on the inside of Raymond Yeager as they come through the first turn. Good start by everyone so far. There's 3 wide down in the back there midfield, but we go through turn 2 onto the back stretch for the first time, and it looks like it's going to be 2 wide between Raymond Yeager and Terry Marwood. Look, they're fanning out 3 wide down the back straight. People are looking racy very early. We'll see whether they can get through 3 and 4 cleanly here, but Terry Marwood not wanting to give up that second position early. Raymond going really wide. Does he keep it off the wall? I'm not sure he did, Paul. I'm not sure Raymond kept it off the wall there. He's dropped back a couple of spots. That's not the way he wanted to start his Indy 400, as he would have got a lot of damage. So he's dropped back at the moment, right back. He's back in 11th spot, down 9 positions already. So it looks like Raymond has pancaked the wall there. So unlucky for Raymond, unless he just got out of it and didn't quite hit the wall. No, he's definitely hit the wall. He's got damage there, so he's not going to like that one. And it looks like that car's really wanting to be attracted to that wall. You see Stephen Williams in the background there going high also. So if you get offline a little bit around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, that wall acts like a magnet and will drag you right up into the wall as quick as you can blink. So we've already seen that happen to Raymond Yeager, but the guys have started pretty cleanly so far, Paul. We'll settle it down a little bit. We're only 2 into 160, a long way to go in this one. So, so Gary Wellman there making his way up the field as well. We'll look where Gary Wellman is, but we're back on with Greg Spencer. So we'll stay with Greg Spencer. Greg looks really, really quick tonight. It'll be interesting to see whether he can keep the tyres on this car. The front right tyre is going to take a pounding around here. Troy Davidson looking racy, moves up into the second position. So we'll see whether he can range up on the back of Greg Spencer. So we'll just keep an eye on that battle at the moment. But they're still racy down the back. Everyone's clean so far. No cautions. 3 laps into 160. Tristan Koch. Hey, Koshi, my teammate. Thanks for tuning in, mate. Mackenzie, Skurlock and Finlay for the top 3. So there we go. He's put the mocker on those 3. So thanks for that, Tristo. Unlucky today for you too, mate, at Talladega, but we'll fight another day tomorrow night in the trucks. So another car there, looks like Darren McKenzie in that Southern Stars eSports car has a bit of damage to the right-hand side of that. He might have got into the wall as well. So he might be another one of the drivers that has been found wanting by the dreaded outside of either turn 1 or turn 3 of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So somewhere around the track, if I got that correctly, there'll be a nice Southern Stars eSports print on the outside wall, which will remind him every time he goes around track. On board there with Aaron Bryan, we've just moved to Ian Class back there in the 27th position. He's fighting at the moment with Philip Howe for position. Philip Howe having a decent start to this one. He's 26, he started 26, so nice solid start. He's just getting into his rhythm, but he's wanting to block off there, so not wanting to lose that position. If you have about 1.7 seconds on the car in front, that's about the limit to where they lose the draft. So you're within 1.7 seconds, you can get the draft in this one. So very different track, very long straights down the front and rear, or front and back straight. So Cade Donnelly's just moved up to the 3rd position, I hear in my ear as well. So he's made the move on Terry Marwood. Terry went quick really early in this one. He's just dropped back a little bit into 4th place. So he'll just be managing that car. Greg is slowly eking out that gap at the front, as you can see on screen as he's just gone past now. He's pulled that out to 0.8 of a second over Troy Davidson in 2nd place. So it is a Sim Boys Racing 2nd and 3rd at the moment. Both of them wanting to make the moves early in this one, and they're chasing down the hunted, which is the 29 of Greg Spencer. So he makes his way down the straight at the moment. This time past the strike, he'll take the 6th lap here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. A long way to go, a very, very long way to go, but a nice start by everyone, Paul.
And Michael Skurlock there just making the moves on Lachlan Capel, getting the job done, moving up to P6, so 3 spots up from Skurley's starting point there.
Yeah, good job by Skurley, Michael Skurlock in the 350 entry. Bandito BMX Bandits, guys, he calls himself. Skurlurkin, you can get on his Twitch at Skurlurkin and watch him run around on his stream as well. So there's a little bit of a shout out to you, Skurley. So if you are on Twitch, jump on there and have a watch Mr. Michael Skurlock go around. But good to see him in the supercar here tonight for the Australasian SUPERCAR eSeries. We haven't seen him much, if at all, through the series so far. So he hasn't done a lot of laps in these cars around an oval, but he is a master of the oval in the cup cars and truck cars. Does a lot of racing around there, and has done a lot of racing around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So no surprise to see him making his moves up early, but he does have a 2.31 second gap to chase down Andy Barber at the moment, who's sitting in 5th position. It's going to take him, he's out of that draft at the moment, so it looks like that those top 5 have made a little bit of a gap on the rest of the field. It looks like everyone else is pretty much status quo in the background. Pete Matson from Ray White Rural Gainers back there in 12th, but Greg Spencer we are currently on board with, so that gap has been diminished by Troy Davidson, so it's a 5-car battle for the lead. Greg Spencer, Troy Davidson, Cade Donnelly, Terry Marwood and Andy Barber rounding out your 5. So lap 8 this time across the strike, and here is a change for the lead early in this one. Troy Davidson, Sim Boys Racing, makes the pass for the lead. So we've got a new leader here on the Australasian SUPERCAR eSeries Indy 400, and his teammate Cade Donnelly's going to follow suit. Watch out for Terry Marwood in the background as well. Greg Spencer getting caught on the outside and nowhere to go. So Terry Marwood making the run down the back stretch at Indianapolis. But look at that draft. Andy Barber's just sitting there with a watching brief going, come on, guys, you keep battling, I'll just go through. It's a little bit too early to fight in this one. You can see there, it was a little bit harder for Terry Marwood to rotate that car into the corner just with that big air buffer behind Greg Spencer, and he's done it again there, and that's allowed Andy Barber to just get a little bit of a shallower run, but he did catch a little bit of curb there through the corner. We don't have the apron at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Paul. We're used to having an apron. It's a little bit different here. They do have the ripple strip or the curb or whatever you want to call it through each of the corners. So if you catch that, that can be very unsettling to the car sometimes, as well as if you catch it at the wrong point. So they'll want to do that as little as possible, unless they obviously like running that line. It can sometimes help you rotate through the corner, but it does unsettle the car. It looks like there's a driver there already in trouble down the back straight, and that looks like Brett Campbell. Brett Campbell's actually joined another team in the last couple of days, so that's not something that he would have wanted early in this one. Looks like he's got into the wall. So Brett Campbell's night is definitely going to be longer than he would have wanted. But it is a Cade Donnelly, Troy Davidson, Sim Boys racing 1-2 at the moment as they go across the strike once again to take lap 10 of 160. Greg Spencer still sitting there in third. Terry Marwood looking very racy, wanting to make some moves, but Andy Barber has just made the move up into P4. So Andy Barber, the first of the Southern Stars racing entries tonight, is making his way up. Greg Spencer might have gone a little bit too hard too early as Andy Barber is making that move down the back stretch. So we'll see when they go into 3 and 4 whether he can make that move. But we've just jumped back to Dwayne Priest at the moment. He's there in 16th position. I believe that's Stephen Williams. He's moved back a little bit. He was up there with Raymond earlier and he's dropped back into 16th. So he's battling with Dwayne Priest at the moment, that you can see in the Petters entry. Stephen Williams, DPR, going up the inside. So the simrigs.com DPR entry of Stephen Williams making that pass on the Petters entry. So it looks like who is in that looks like Matty Simpson in the DJR Team Penske livery. So that one will stand out for you tonight, ladies and gentlemen. So we'll see how that goes. Scotty Rankin right behind him at the moment as well. So battles all through the field at the moment, Paul, as Cade Donnelly leads the way 11 laps into 160.
Yeah, 11 laps in. They're about a third of the way into their fuel run so far, so no cautions as yet. 11 laps all green, so good to see.
Yeah, very good to see. Great driving by everyone so far. 11 laps into 160, no cautions. Hopefully you didn't just put the commentator's curse on Paul. I usually do that, so why not you join into the conversation and do that tonight, so I can blame that on you. But we've been blaming it on our viewers lately, so we might do that as well tonight just to get us out of trouble. We'll blame it on the viewers. But we can see you all tuning in. So once again, everyone tuning in here on the Indosim Esports Network, whether it's Facebook or YouTube, be sure to share it to all your friends as well. We want everyone tuning in, so don't be quiet, tune in, let all your friends know, share them the links. It is 160 laps. I just put an extra 10 on that I'm sure these guys didn't need, but 160 laps, so a long way to go. Steve Hoppett has tuned into the chat as well, Paul, as we see the leaders just make their way through the 1 and 2 turns, lap 12 of 160. Steve believes if Spencer can keep it clean, consistent, he'll get a podium, but Barber and McKenzie will be dangerous. So he's hit the nail on the head there, Paul. Barber and McKenzie are teammates, and they are usually pretty quick in these cars, so it won't be any surprise. And Margaret Shannon tuning in as well, going for the same, Barber and McKenzie, so that's no surprise there. But Michael Scurlock making his way up onto the back of this lead group. It was 2.5 seconds a couple of laps ago. He's brought that down to just on near 1 second. It's just gone exactly 1 second. So he's ranging up on the back of the lead of this race, or the battle of the lead of this race. And he's pulling Gary Wellman in the 45 Simboys entry up with him as well. So Gary Wellman and Michael Scurlock will join the battle for the top 5 of this motor race sooner rather than later. So looks like they're still battling at the front there. They're not happy to sit behind each other this draft. does make a big difference as they go down the main straight. Looks like Greg Spencer's gone, no, I'm not happy to sit there. I'm going to come back and I'm going to have a run on Cade Donnelly into turn 1. Terry Marwood sitting there behind as well. Is Terry going to make it 3 wide into 1? No, he thinks better of that as Greg Spencer clears Cade Donnelly there to take back that second position from him. Cade Donnelly clears Terry Marwood and they're back into single file formation as they make their way down the back straight once again. Troy Davison just getting a little gap there, but that draft will bring him back to the field as we see Cade Donnelly pushing Greg Spencer quite hard down the back straight. So looks like that's just made Cade Donnelly overrun the third corner and allowed Terry Marwood to just poke that ear. I can't remember what his team name is. ETS, I think it is. Yeah, I got a message about that, Paul. I think it's ETS. I'm not sure. But anyway, we'll get that information to you. But Terry Marwood making the move there, but he couldn't quite get it rotated through the 3 and 4 turns. So that's allowed Andy Barber to get the run on the outside. But look what that's done. That's brought Michael Skurlock and Gary Wellman right into this one, Paul. And we now have a 7-car train for the lead of this motor race. 14 laps in, or 15 laps in.
Well, I knew it was only going to be a matter of time for Skirley to get up there. I know Skirley and I had a few runs back in the old days in the V8s when he did do the series full time before it was under the full throttle banner. But yeah, he hasn't done anything this season, I believe. So this is actually his first race under the Australasian SUPERCAR eSeries. But it looks like he's just pulling out there a little bit, and that's given Gary Wellman the 6th position there as Skurlock's just dropped back a bit.
Yeah, it's dropped back a bit. I was looking at something else on another screen. I didn't see what happened there. Not sure whether he got a little bit wide through one of those turns, but his car looks all right at the moment. So we will see whether he just got a little bit wide, but it won't be long until he ranges back up onto the back of this one. But it still is Troy Davidson leading the way at the front from Greg Spencer, Terry Marwood, Andy Barber and Gary Wellman in 5, with Cade Donnelly in the 6th position. Looks like, yeah, we've had a change to the front as well. That's Greg Spencer making his way back to the front of this motor race. So it looks like he just dropped back a little bit there and allowed those tyres to cool off, and he's made his way back to the front. So the pace that he showed in practice and qualifying is showing again here at the Australasian SUPERCAR eSeries. So Greg Spencer leading the way. Looks like Terry Marwood wants a go at leading this one as he gets the run down the back straight. We'll see whether he can make this move through the third turn and the first and second turn as they go through down the main straight. Rather, I got my bearings wrong there. But Terry Marwood, for the first time tonight, takes the lead of the Indy 400 for the Australasian SUPERCAR eSeries here on the IndySim Esports Network. And he's pulled out a little bit of a gap there on the people behind. But as I said, that will definitely close up as they make their way down the back straight. So the gap between this front group at the moment, which on the tail of that is Michael Skurlock in the 350 car, has a 3.5 second gap over Aaron Dillon and Lachlan Capel, who lead that second group as well, and they're racy in this second group trying to catch up to the guys in front. But the more that they race like this, that gap is slowly going to widen out to the group in front, which we can see has happened on our timing at the moment there at about 3.6 seconds. So we'll see now whether Lachlan Capel wants to make a run on Aaron Dillon, and yes, he does. Steve Williams, you can see back there as well, going 2 wide into 1 and 2 this time round in that DPR entry, the simrigs.com DPR entry, making the move there as well. Christopher Finlay part of that battle as well. Reese May there as well. Sean Hart, Peter Matson in the Ray White Rural Gander entry, a part of this group as well. There he is on screen, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry, that's Scott Rankin, you can see. But you can see that Pete Matson's there in the Ray White Rural Gander car. There he is. We've moved to him there. So he's had a good start to this one. He is down 4 spots on his starting position, but that doesn't matter this early on, Paul. There is a long way to go, but that gap to those front guys is slowly eking out. It's now 4.25 seconds from Michael Skurlock back to the lead of this second group of Lachlan Capel, Paul.
And with that, looks like Gary Wellman's wanting to have his time at the front now. So Gary Wellman making the moves for P1 over Terry Marwood there.
Yeah, they're changing positions at the moment at the front here as much as I change my underwear. So we will see see if this keeps happening as the race goes on. Gary Wellman running down the back straight there. It looks like that Terry Marwood says, no, Gary, I want to have another go, as he runs it up the inside of him there through the entry of turn 3. Looks like that's Philip Howe, sorry, in the background there. So he had a good start to the race, but he has moved his way back. He must have had an instant with that dreaded wall or the likes. You can see Wellman there pulling right down, getting the draft on Philip Howe, and that's allowing him to just pull that gap out a little bit more. He's going to make the move down through the corner around the outside now. Philip Howe doing a great job getting out the road of the drivers there, so no harm, no foul there. He has been lapped in this motor race, so a long way back for Philip Howe, but it is Gary Wellman with the lead of this motor race. Terry Marwood, Andy Barber, Kate Donnelly, Greg Spencer, still your 5, and it looks like Philip Howe's jumped to pit, so he's had a big incident. We'll go back and have a look at that replay. So he was letting all the drivers go past. He comes on the inside here. Doesn't look like just stopped and escaped and ejected from the motor race. So it didn't look like he'd blown his engine, but he got a bit of damage there and goes, no, enough's enough. I'm not going to do this one. Sam Katakouzanos joining into the stream tonight. Good evening to you, Mr. Sam. No yellow yet. I'm impressed, maybe because I'm not there to make one. Ha ha, big laughy faces. So don't say that about you, Sammy. It's not always your fault, no. It's not, mate. Thanks for tuning in on the Intersim Esports Network, though, mate. Keep those comments coming. Let us know who you think's going to come out on top tonight. Long way to go, but Paul, we're getting very close in the next 10 to 12 odd laps to see who is going to blink and pit first.
Definitely, we had those fuel numbers there, I think, Aiden. So I think you mentioned they were about 35 to 37 laps or odd.
Yeah, 35 to 37 laps is what we have been briefed with that drivers will get out of a tank of fuel. They're currently 22 laps this time across the start-finish line, so that's going to give us anywhere between the range of 13 to 15 laps until we're going to see these drivers start to blink. Obviously, the more that these drivers run at the front of the race, or the front of their pack rather, as you can see some really distinguished packs in this motor race early on, that will determine where they're going to, or where their pit stop will fall. So we'll see how that plays out as we see the battle for the minors at the moment. 23rd position of Aaron Bryan there being hassled by the number 4 of Adam Malone. Adam Malone, after starting out of the 6th position, is all the way back there in the 24th position, the Southern Stars entry of Adam Malone. So not sure what happened there. He blinked a little bit. He might have had an issue with some blinking, as we've seen him blink there as well. So, there's the culprit. He's been another one of the drivers that has fallen to the outside wall out of either 1 or 2. So that's 3 drivers now, Paul, that we've seen have a big lift onto that outside wall out of 1 and 2, and that's going to make their night really tough.
Yeah, definitely don't want to run out wide or turn right into the wall before making that left-hander. Just trying to shift the weight there. That'll definitely give you a bit of a rub down the side of your car on the wall.
Yeah, it will, and they won't want that, and their repair time is not going to be beneficial for them being a player in this race. But as we've seen, and this is oval racing, doesn't matter if you go a lap or 2 down, you can always come back and have a solid result, if not win it. It's still a long way to go. It is the 400. Terry Marwood taking a really shallow exit there, but, well, we're 23, 24 laps down of the Indy 400 here on the Australasian SUPERCAR Australasian SUPERCAR eSeries on the Intersim Esports Network. Let's give Terry Marwood a bit of love. Your leader, 23, 24 laps in. Let's go on board with him and do 2 or 3 laps around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Well, we get our breath, go get a drink, and come back to you here on the Intersim Esports Network. And as Terry Marwood makes his way across the strike at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway to take the 27th lap of 160, there is a couple of laps on board with the number 10 entry of Terry Marwood. Having a nice solid drive there, as that's great camera shots there, Paul, out the back of the number 10 entry. As you can see, Andy Barber trying to make his way up onto the back of him at the moment, but Terry Marwood has made a nice little gap there on Andy Barber, out to about that 1/8 of a second. Not quite far enough at the moment to get out of that draft, as we can see Andy Barber following suit down the back straight, staying in the draft. He pulled about 1/10 of a second just in the draft there down the back straight. So that gives you an idea, ladies and gentlemen, of how much you can pull up there. But Terry Marwood showing a clean set of heels, 27 into 160. Let's go back and have a look at some of the big movers, ladies and gentlemen. Paul will come with me with the cameras as I talk about the drivers. So Gary Wellman sitting there in the 4th position at the moment, up 10 spots on his starting position. The number 45 Simboys entry making 10 spots up from his 14th spot starting position. So nice and solid there. Another driver with a great start to this one is Sean Hart in the 610 entry. He's up 12 positions on his on his 21st starting position. So he's up 12 positions into 9th at the moment. So Sean Hart there, right in behind the 98 DPR simrigs.com entry of Stephen Williams. Another driver that's up a few spots, and it's not uncommon to see this. He is the current championship leader of the Australasian Supercar eSeries, and it is no other than Justin Witcher in the 21 Pinnacle Esports entry. He has now moved his way up into the 19th position inside the top 20, up 14 spots. A nice solid start there for Justin. Sam Katakouzanos has said smooth operator on the stream. Not sure what that means, Sam, as you haven't referenced a driver, so not quite sure what you mean there, but I'm sure you'll let us know. As we said, ladies and gentlemen, share the stream across Facebook or YouTube of our Indisim Esports network, and make sure you share that and get everyone into this as well. We've had a change for 2nd position. Cade Donnelly's made the move on Andy Barber. Gary Wellman sitting back there in 4th. Greg Spencer's dropped back a little bit. He's about 2.5, 3 seconds off the lead of this motor race as well, sitting back in 5th. But Troy Davidson's also dropped back. He's about 2 seconds off this group. Terry Marwood making a pit early, so we expected 35 to 37 laps, and we're 29 laps in. 30 laps this time across the strike, and Terry Marwood has been the first to blink and come into pit lane as Andy Barber goes, this is my opportunity to take the lead of this motor race again, and he comes up and makes that move on Cade Donnelly. Gary Wellman sitting there in 3rd place. So Terry Marwood blinking a little bit earlier than we suspected there, Paul.
Yeah, just a few, but Terry was showing some pretty racy pace out there as well, and led quite a few laps as well, so might have just burned a little bit more fuel than what a few of these other guys have, just sitting back and saving a little bit.
Yeah, and that's where it's going to be interesting to watch the strategy and the fuel strategy of these guys. Some of the guys sitting back in the 20s, even the late teens at the moment, might just be saving a little bit of fuel to get some extra laps out of this one, and possibly at that last stop, if we do go green to the end of it, but not sure whether we will, they'll have to sit stationary for less time. So we'll see how that plays out, but it still is the 05 of Andy Barber, Southern Stars Racing, leading the way. So once again, he's used to being at the front of a motor race today, and he's doing the same thing here for round 13 and the final round of the Australasian Supercar eSeries. So, well, it settles down, Paul, and they're about to go through their green flag pit stops. Let's run through our sponsors of the Australasian Supercar eSeries once again, as we always do. So, of course, Ray White Rural Gander, the major sponsor of the Australasian Supercar eSeries. They are based up in Gander in the Sunshine Coast region of Queensland for all your property needs through that region, whether it be renting, buying, whether you're after an investment property or even some land or building and trying to get some land to build that house that you've always wanted. Be sure to get on to Ray White Rural Gander up in that region. You can catch them on social media through your Facebook platforms. Of course, you can find them on the World Wide Web. Just type in Ray White Rural Gander into your Google or Chrome search, whatever search engine you use, and you will be sure to find them. So Pete Matson is the man from Ray White Rural Gander, so be sure to get onto them and support the people that support iRacing and the Australasian Supercar eSeries. Of course, Witcher Electrics, another sponsor of the Australasian Supercar eSeries, and the owner and founder of that is Justin Witcher, your current championship leader, who you can see we're on board with now. So he's based down in the Melbourne region, Victoria. So if you are after any commercial, industrial, residential, any types of electrical works, and you're based down in Victoria, be sure to get on to Justin Witcher Electrics, and it is electrics with an X, Electrix. You can find him on Facebook, as always, as everyone's on that platform these days through the social media world, but you can also find him on the World Wide Web through your search engines, and support the people that support iRacing and support the Australasian Supercar eSeries. So Witcher Electrics, of course, AP Esports or Ape Sports that you saw come up there as well. That is myself. I'm a part of the series and a sponsor of the series, and what a great honour it is. So that is my streaming platform where I stream my racing, and I'm actually streaming myself commentating tonight. So if you do want to have a look at that while you're looking at the racing as well, go on to AP Esports, so APE, Ape in bold letters, Sports on Facebook. Jump on, give it a like, give it a follow, and you'll see my ugly mug commentating at the moment. So feel free to do that. But Andy Barber still leads the way. Kate Donnelly, Gary Wellman, Troy Davis, and Michael Skurlock rounding out your five, Paul.
Coming up to that lap 35, so that golden number there is our fuel calculations we were given. So wonder who's going to make the first jump here, if Andy's going to come in, or if they're all going to come in together, or one of the guys, one of the sim boys there in the background, if they're all going to jump together and leave Andy out high and dry.
Yeah, well, they're not teammates, as I just tangle myself up in the booth at the moment, but they're not teammates, so I'm not sure they'll want to work with each other. Those Sim Boys cars, they don't generally work with each other anyway. They'll be the first to tell you that. They're out there and it's all guns blazing. It's their race. They run a pretty individual race. They are talking to themselves, or each other rather, in the chat, but they want to win as much as everybody else. That's a very interesting call there, Paul. It'll be very interesting to see what happens, but we're 35 into 160. They're well within their window now to make their first stop. We did see Terry Marwood blink early, which has put him a lap down this motor race, but that'll come back to him when we see these leaders pit, and don't be surprised if Terry Marwood does come back into the lead of this motor race after a couple of laps out on fresh tyres and a little bit of draft. So we'll see how that pans out, but Andy Barber still leads the way of this one. Too many drivers, Paul laughing in my ear, that's funny. But I'm looking at the stream as well. Sam Katakouznos referring to the cockpit view in regards to smooth operator with Terry with his steering inputs and smooth work on the wheel. You're exactly right there, Sam. Very good observation. So we'll see Terry Marwood hopefully back to the point of this motor race sooner rather than later, and saying we're doing a great job again, boys, on the broadcast. So thank you so much for the kind words there, Steve, for saying that. So thank you, and thanks for having a look at my stream in my good get-up tonight, mate. My nice casual get-up here for the Indy 400 for the Australasian Supercar eSeries here on the Indisim Esports Network. So they don't go in again, Paul. Andy Barber goes around for another one. He's 37 laps now, this time past the strike he takes of 160. He's right on the edge of that fuel window that we got given before this race, as Steve Williams makes the move there on Greg Spencer, who's dropped back after starting out of the pole position here. He's moved back to the 7th position of this motor race. So he might be saving a little bit of fuel there, but he's got Sean Hart all over the back of him at the moment. And he's going to take that position down the back stretch. I believe we could possibly see Greg Spencer make his way into pit lane this time around, as he's giving up that position to maybe get some track position to make his way through the entry to the pit lane nice and smoothly. But Andy Barber back on board up the front here. We'll see, they're not blinking either. None of the top 5 are in, so they're going around again. Are we going to see Cade Donnelly make a move? No, he's not. He's just sitting there with a watching brief. He's going to wait for when Andy Barber blinks to go into pit lane, I'd suggest. So we will see what happens there as they make their way through the 1 and 2 turns once again here in the Indy 400. If they can get to that 40 lap mark, which it looks like they might, as I just refresh my stream, then, sorry, technical glitch. If they can make that 40 lap mark, that is going to give them a 3-stopper if this goes green. So this is going to be interesting, even more so how this plays out as they come through the final 2 turns. It is lap 38. They will be 39 this time across the strike. Will Andy Barber have to blink? He does. There you go, the leader of this motor race. The Andy Barber, the 05, makes his way into pit lane. He's going to make his way and get his first service of the Indy 400, and he's the first of this current lead group to take his green flag pit stop. So I'd suggest the likes of Cade Donnelly, Gary Wellman, Troy Davidson, Michael Skurlock, Steve Williams. Steve Williams has made his way right up onto the back of this lead group after being 3 or 4 seconds behind. So massive difference in the tyre wear there. They were just sitting back and maybe just not keeping their stuff underneath them and made a run when they needed to. So they've made their way up there. Sean Hart with a great drive up 15 positions into 6th. So he's got his head around the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in the 610 entry. He's chasing down Mr. Stephen Williams in the 98 DPRSimRigs.com entry. Is